This presentation was originally provided at the LRMI Metadata Meetup in Washington, D.C. on July 30th, 2014. My presentation is going to cover the ISLE, Illinois Shared Learning Environment, Open Educational Resources, enabling open access and integration using LRMI and the Learning Registry. I'm going to cover 3 topics. I'll give a little background about the Illinois Shared Learning Environment and the Open Educational Resources, and talk a little about how the ISLE OER uses the Learning Resource Metadata Initiative and Learning Registry, and what using LRMI and LR enable. The Illinois Shared Learning Environment is a technology platform that is being built now, and it is to serve students through career. It includes K-12 schools as well as our state's Illinois Pathways, Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math Learning Exchanges, and career development. The Open Educational Resources is one of the ISLE tools. This diagram shows how the ISLE solutions are going to be designed and available through integrated features. And central to those integrated features is a searchable content library composed of the Open Educational Resources. By integration, I mean the ability to use metadata and data models to share data back and forth between these systems seamlessly. The Open Education Resources website is available now. Anyone can access it on ioer.ilsharedlearning.org. Using this tool, you can search, filter, and narrow resources. You can use a Learning Standards browser to find resources aligned to learning standards. You can rate and comment on resources. You can share resources by uploading them to the system or tagging them. You can do a quick tag or fully tag resources using LRMI. You can also create web pages or upload an entire or partial curriculum. The system also features organizational libraries that can be followed, and it also includes communities of interest, a timeline that can be followed to bring in the social aspect of networking and sharing resources. And because of the standardized data, it can also be used as widgets and as an API to other systems as well. This chart summarizes some of the key attributes of ISLE and the enablers of the key attributes, with integration being central to the goals of the Illinois Shared Learning Environment. And as you can see in the right-hand column, that the Learning Resource Metadata Initiative is one of the enablers that we're going to talk about today, as well as the Learning Registry. There are other enablers, and altogether we depend upon these enablers to provide tools that integrate well across systems and provide the kinds of resources and easy ways that our workforce and education partners need on a daily basis. So we're going to focus today on only the LRMI and the Learning Registry and how those two in particular are enabling the open access to and integration of resources. Together, the LR and LRMI are enabling our open educational resources and other applications. A couple of examples of how this is done is by maintaining a common, using a metadata and common vocabulary, and the Learning Registry. We're able to utilize a data store that's puts our focus and time and money on the end product. And so that is a Learning Registry. The Learning Registry is providing this national global metadata repository, and in that repository there are resources that use the LRMI metadata, making it much easier for us to bring resources into our tools and focus on the end user product. The LRMI standardizing is critical to our ability to be able to index and integrate across other applications, as described earlier in the presentation with my diagram, for example, with learning maps. Metadata impacts on the open educational resources include the ability to index. From a user perspective, that means the ability to easily find resources. Filtering, that's the ability of our users to be able to narrow their search results. And tagging, the ability to consistently tag resources specifically for meeting educational purposes, and to provide APIs to use with our own and other applications as well. The data store and Paradata impacts on the ILOER make it easy for us to consume and produce resources, so we can receive resources from others, such as the National Science Digital Library or the Smithsonian Institute, and to share back to others, for example, the CTE Online or brokers of expertise who might bring in resources from the Learning Registry into their systems. We can also share usage information between all of us, so to help our customers or educators and workforce partners understand the value of the resources that they're considering using. This diagram shows how the IL Open Education Resources produces and consumes the metadata and paradata from the Learning Registry. And the main point here in this diagram is showing that the Learning Registry, though in the middle, is providing a means for replicating that data on Learning Registry nodes that we can then control and determine what we want to consume from it and publish back and share, and that there are other partners like us who utilize them similarly for their purposes to be able to share resources and do it effectively and in a cost-effective way. At the bottom of the slide, there are some details on how the data moves across the system to be able to normalize the data and to be able to be choosy about the data that we bring in, so we can determine what resources are most relevant to our customers. The IL Open Education Resources consists of code, data stores, and an index that were all developed and maintained by the ILOER team here in my office. We determine what we will accept from the Learning Registry. We have the ability to augment or remove metadata from our own system without affecting or impacting the owner of that metadata. And we can determine what resources we want to share openly back to the Learning Registry. So it really is an enabler without requiring us to use everything that they have or providing the rules. We determine the rules around how to use it to benefit from the Learning Registry and that data in there, and especially the LRMI. Now, there are some challenges with using the LR and LRMI. For example, getting a broad enough base of participants or organizations such as our own who use our systems to proactively produce and provide new resources that are aligned to learning standards to the Learning Registry. And all of those resources are tagged with the LRMI metadata, making it very easy for our partners who use the Learning Registry to use those resources consistently. Receiving the metadata with a useful vocabulary and tagged appropriately. Because the LRMI is fairly new, there is a learning curve, but the good news is that the LR and LRMI are also a collaboration, and so we are working nationally with the LR and LRMI and other partners to resolve those kinds of issues. And of course, in K-12 right now, aligning resources to learning standards, and as we expand our resources beyond just the lower levels to post-secondary, it is essential to us to also be able to have tagged competencies. Just another quick example of the enabling that LRMI and the Learning Registry enable with our API and our widgets. If we are consistently providing data in a way that other applications do not have to guess or do extra work to bring that data in, it makes it easier to integrate and achieve the goals of the Illinois Shared Learning Environment across tools and applications such as learning maps, assessment authoring, and even dashboards and student intervention tracking, as well as other websites. The rest of the presentation shows some of the screenshots from the IEL Open Education resources, and it's just intended to show where the Learning Registry and where the LRMI come into play from a user perspective. And really the point in doing this was to show that it really does impact virtually all aspects of our tools that we provide to teachers and our workforce education partners who are searching for relevant resources, who are creating and following libraries, or creating and sharing new resources. And as I stated, for our K-12 grades and post-secondary grades, the ability to filter in meaningful ways, for example, by standards or competencies, and for our science, technology, engineering, and math learning exchanges by career cluster. I had mentioned that we can tag resources through the IEL Open Education Resources tool, so we offer what we call a quick tagger, and then also what we call a full tagger. So the full tagger uses the LRMI. So when we are tagging something new and it's going to the Learning Registry, it's using the LRMI metadata, and you're seeing a screenshot of that actual full tagger. And again, even when our users are checking their timeline, or if they're updating tags to, for example, include standards alignment and to rate and comment on them, there are impacts with the Learning Registry and the LRMI. Finally, when you're using our tools, you may participate with communities and share resources directly through those communities. And so, as you can see, really the only place for our users where the LRMI or LR do not come into play is our user guide. Even with our personalization, the ability to bring in resources consistently based on personal preferences is a result of being able to bring resources in with a standard metadata markup, and we utilizing the Learning Registry to have a broad range of resources. The Illinois Shared Learning Environment project team is composed of Northern Illinois University, Southern Illinois University, Illini Cloud, and NCSA. Our project sponsors are the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity and the Illinois State Board of Education. And I want to thank the IEL OER team for all their work in providing these tools to our teachers and workforce partners.